All right, welcome back to the Way, Temple, Texas, as we dive deeper into the teachings of our Messiah, our high priest. That's what we're going to go over now. There we go. There we go. The teachings of our high priest. So all morning in Leviticus, we were going over what? The doctrine of Yahuwah, right?
Right.
We were going over how to cleanse our tabernacles, put on clean garments and purify our souls was the theme of this morning's reading in Leviticus.
Purifying the temple.
Yeah, purifying the temple, cleansing our souls and ourselves, right? Put on clean garments. So the question is always, did the Messiah teach this? Did the Messiah show us how to cleanse our temples and our souls? Because the Messiah said that he came in his Father's name and his Father's doctrine. So if he taught different, then he would be a liar.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important that we understand that and put it to the test to make sure that the Messiah did in fact teach what the Father taught, or else we're following the wrong Messiah. And I think it's one of the biggest holdups for the native-born Yahudim is that they claim that Yahushua, well, technically, they say Jesus is not the Messiah because they're looking for another. And, I can agree and disagree. But I think if they were to put aside their traditions and see that Yahushua HaMashiach was actually the Messiah and taught his Father's doctrine, Genesis through Deuteronomy, that maybe they would have a change of heart and come back to the truth. But unfortunately, the world's false religions have clouded their view on having anything to do with the Christian Messiah, right? And so the teachings of our high priest, wash your robes, right, Matthew? You got to get them garments white if you want to go to the wedding. What happens if you're not in the right garments and you sneak into the wedding feast?
You get kicked out.
You get kicked out. That's kind of embarrassing, right? Could you imagine? Sitting up there and you're like, what's up, guys? What's up? And all of a sudden the high priest comes around. He's like, how'd you get in here?
Yeah, who are you?
You got to leave.
And
I don't know
he
you.
calls over to his servant, John the Baptist, and he's like, hey, immerser, come immerse this guy out of here. Right? I mean, we laugh now, but that would be awful. That would be awful.
And because he was thinking he was cured, now he is embarrassed.
Yeah, it's almost like he'll have weeping and gnashing of
Right.
teeth, right? Oh, wait a minute. The Messiah said that. I've always envisioned weeping and gnashing of teeth, like thinking something is truth your whole life, and then at the end you find out it's not. How ignorant that makes you feel, and all of a sudden you're like, right? You start crying because you allow people to trick you your whole life. That's how I see that.
And
Matthew 5:1, what's it say?
seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain. And when he was set, his comedian came unto him.
Now, where is that from in the book of Exodus? Have you ever seen that before, that line right there? I know it's been a while since I taught the book of Shemo, but it's in there. Does anyone remember?
Yeah, it's Moshe.
Moshe, yep, when they went up onto the mountain, Yahuwah called them up, right? He called up Moses first. Then he called up the elders. And they all what? On the top of that mountain. What did the elders and Moshe do together with Yahushua? Do you remember in Exodus? Anybody? Somebody want to look it up and read
They
it?
feast.
They what?
They feast.
They ate. They dined together. And that's all out of Exodus when he called Moshe and the elders to the top of the mountain. And so this is not new. This is the way of Yahuwah. He goes up on top of a mountain. He calls first those who are close to him, and then he speaks to the multitude. Because what was at the bottom of Mount Sinai?
was all the tribesmen.
Heathens.
The multitude. That was the great multitude that came out of Egypt, that followed Yahuwah out of Egypt and followed Moshe. So it's the same pattern. So right off the bat, we know that Matthew 5:1 is Yahuwah. We know it because it's the same pattern. He calls first those who are close to him, and then he brings the multitude to speak to them. And that's what today's lesson in Leviticus was, to speak, right? Right. And so Matthew 5:2, what's that say?
And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying,
So the act of opening your mouth and teaching them is the fulfillment of that word we went over today. Does anyone remember what it was? Huh? It means to speak, right? I think it was Amar, right?
Amar, yeah.
It's all right. It was a long morning, so I understand you forget the very first slide. So anyways, he fulfilled that word just like he did in the book of Genesis, in the book of Exodus, in the book of Leviticus, and in the book of Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy means what? Devarim literally means word. It literally means his word. So he fulfilled it in all those books. Okay, Matthew 5:3. What is this? Can someone read it?
Blessed are, go ahead. You go ahead. Okay. Blessed are the poor in Ruah, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. More?
Yep. Read the whole thing.
Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Elohim.
Now, out of those blessings, can anyone see what we read this morning? What's your thoughts?
Pure in heart.
Pure in heart?
merciful?
Merciful? Yep, because atonement means mercy, right? To atone for. Okay. It's all good. Good. What about the hunger and thirst after righteousness? Do you remember when we read in Leviticus? It said that those who diligently seek me or seek after me, right? So that was there in Leviticus also. All these are in there if you're willing to look. Matthew 5:9-12. Someone read that.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of Elohim. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you, and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil things against you falsely, for my name's sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, and great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you.
Why did they persecute the prophets?
Because they spoke Yahuwah's word,
Because they spoke his word.
and it sawed them in half.
Told people to repent, right?
Fiery sword.
They did Matthew 5:16 and 17. Pretty much.
Yeah. So all of these right here are all about one thing, and it's about upholding righteousness. These right here are all about being guardians of the truth and not allowing people to change it, not to add to or take away. Because a peacemaker is one like Phineas. Do you remember Phineas?
Sword through the belly.
The spear through the belly of the two people that profaned Yahuwah, right? He was told that he would be called a son of Yahuwah. Phineas was. That was a promise given to him through Moshe from Yahuwah. He was the first of many to be called peacemakers, right? David was definitely a peacemaker because he went around destroying all the enemies of Yahuwah. Okay? And so are we. How are you a peacemaker, do you think?
Go out there and destroy Satan's word.
That's it, brother. You go out there and fight against flesh and blood because of the evil, wicked spirit that's behind it. And you say no to the lie, and then you tell them the truth. And in fact, you said it earlier, it's like a sword that you're literally cutting that person in half, causing them to see themselves for what they are. It is warfare, and it is a peacemaker. A peacemaker is not someone that's afraid of war. It is someone that daily is in warfare. That's what a peacemaker is. You ever heard the saying, hard times create hard men, and easy times create soft men, and soft men create hard times? Have you ever heard that said? All right. So that's the concept of, if we give in to the lies and the doctrines of demons, it creates hard times. Where do those hard times come from? Yahuwah, right? He allows Hasatan to rule over us as Hasatan becomes our king. You're both right.
That's why it's sad.
It's,
Looking at these folks walking around with curses,
yes,
walking around in a curse, and then speaking curses over themselves,
that's it.
children and their households and their spouses, cursing the workplace, cursing everything, and they're wondering why they're, struggling with these
Got it,
curses.
That's right. And then if you become hard or rigid like an oak tree, which you can find in the scriptures as being upright like an oak, solid oak of Yahuwah, you are walking in blessing. But does that mean you escape the hard times in this world?
I've had so many people say to me, well, what kind of God do we serve that would let bad things happen to people? And I tell them, Hasatan doesn't do anything to you that isn't approved by Yahuwah, because it just doesn't happen. He controls everything.
Yeah.
But the majority of the world did not understand that.
Right.
I know I didn't. I know I didn't realize
Right.
that the way I was walking and the way I was talking and the way I was thinking
Yeah.
was cursed. And I was going through these things because of that. So I tried talking to my oldest daughter, her older half sister, 26-year-old, and she's like, "Don't talk to me about that God stuff. How can a good God let all these horrible things happen, like all this stuff that happened and all this other stuff that happened?
Yeah.
It's horrible." At that point, I didn't have a good answer.
Right. Yeah. Well, thankfully, he is patient and tarries for our sake. See, he wishes, right? He wills that none should perish, and he puts out there the way of life. And so, ultimately, when calamity strikes and terrible things happen and all this stuff, it's the result of who? Not of Yahuwah, but the result of man's hard hearts towards the truth. That's the reality of it. They willingly give their children to death. They willingly feed their children to death. They subject, because a lot of people are like, well, what about the children? Are not the children at the mercy of those who call themselves parents? Are not the children at the mercy of those who they're given into the hands of? The children are still innocent, but unfortunately, wicked people come in and they take advantage of the innocent. Now, it is not without vengeance, because trust me, nothing we can do to people that do corruption and wickedness in this earth compares to what Yahuwah is going to do with them. Nothing. The day of vengeance for those who do not care to hear nor do the will of Yahuwah is awful. And I'm thankful that he tarries. I'm thankful that we live in a big bowl of testing so that we each get a chance to choose him versus him destroying us the minute that we did something wrong. What would people say of him then? If at every time that someone would break his law, he would lightning bolt from heaven and just strike him dead and burn him into a crisp? What kind of world would that be?
Empty.
It'd be empty. There would no one here. Instead, he has such a great love that he has given each generation and each soul that comes into being a chance to choose him. That's love. And it's not his will that men are so corrupt. That's Hasatan. All right, so Matthew 5, 17 and 18. Did we read? I missed some here. Could someone read 13 through 16 for me? Somehow I missed it.
Not there.
13 through 16?
13.
You said 13 through 16? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I might have skipped it on purpose. Well, go ahead and read it.
You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost its savor, with that shall it be salted? With what shall it be salted? It is therefore good for nothing but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that has been set on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a menorah, and it gives light to all that are in the house. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven.
And what's the two things that the covenant is described as?
Lamp and a light, I don't know. Shield.
A light and a lamp. It's kind of similar, right? Both put out light. What's the other thing that's not often said?
City on a hill.
It's a covenant of, comes out of the book of Leviticus. Salt. Bingo. The covenant of Yahuwah is related to light and to salt. So if you were salty and then you lost your saltiness, what is that a sign of? It's him. It means you're not in the covenant anymore. You lost your covenant.
Empty.
You're empty.
So being salty is a good thing after all.
Being salty is a great thing.
Yeah.
In the terms of the covenant of Yahuwah.
Yeah, not like a sailor.
Yeah.
Salty as Yahusha, not as a sailor.
Yeah, she's right.
Huh?
Salt purifies.
Yes, it does. So does the Torah.
And it preserves.
And it preserves.
That's true.
That's correct.
And it seasons.
And yes, so you see why the covenant was called a covenant of salt. And the people of Yasharel were told to salt every meal. What do you think that means? Have you ever heard it said to sanctify your food with prayer and what was the other one?
Supplications.
In the word? Sanctify your food by the word and by prayer. And so if we salt every meal, what are we doing? Huh?
Purifying.
Yeah, by the word, right? We're making sure that we're eating what is of the word. And we also eat the word. It is our meal. It is our bread. Which,
See,
yeah.
that's why I think that pink salt is already purified. You know, where we talked about where it possibly came from. I think it's purifying.
Probably.
Oh,
It is
mines
salt
of
after all.
Yeah,
Himalayas.
Himalayan.
It was just very strange when we came into the knowledge of Himalayan salt and like it's just weird. It looks like meat
Have
and,
you seen the salt mines?
and, it look,
They,
and the way it's laid on the earth, it looks like someone's huge body.
it looks like giant's flesh.
Yeah, it's so weird, man.
It looks like you're tearing off sinew, like not sinew, but whatever that
It's like you're eating what's her name? Lot's wife. She became a pillar of salt.
You don't do that.
I mean, I don't know, man.
Did they even,
I'm speaking hypothetically
did
here.
they
Huh?
even
That's
say her
like-
name?
No.
Did they even say her name in the word?
No,
So you
The
know what he
names,
says
the name of the
about-
wicked is usually blotted out.
That's what I'm saying. Those
Oh,
usually
okay.
never
That's what you're gonna
speak.
say.
Their names don't even get in there.
Like
Their names don't even get to be said.
David's wife that was given to him by King Saul, eventually her name disappeared, and she was just remembered as Saul's daughter. She was not even remembered as David's wife anymore.
Or Michael or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna read 17. That's like this.
All right, so here I did this for a reason. This is the King James Strong's version. So all these letters and numbers after each word, that is the word in the Greek context. And so what I'm going to do is break this down word by word for you so that you can see what it really means. Okay? And now this is a Greek meaning, and I will help talk you into where it traces back to its Hebrew origins. All right? As the Messiah would have spoke from a Hebrew standpoint, not as if he was a Greek person. Okay? So Matthew 5:17, it says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." So these are some of the most argued over words in the entire Bible. Okay? And it doesn't make sense to me because you can look up the meanings of these things. And if you compare them to the things that the Messiah said, the other things, you'll know the true meaning of them. And I don't know why it's always such a debate. Then he goes on to say, "For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass away, not one jot or tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled." All right? So let's break that down. The first one we're going to go over is destroy, which is G2647 in the Strong's alphabet. You see here, see up there, it says right next to it. So we go into the Strong's alphabet. It brings us, or Strong's dictionary, the Strong's concordance, excuse me, not alphabet. It means to dissolve, disunite what has been joined together, to destroy or demolish, to overthrow, to render vain, deprive of success, bring to naught, to subvert, overthrow of institutions, forms of government, laws, etc., to deprive of force, to annul, to abrogate, to discard of travelers, to halt on a journey. I thought that one was cool, right? Because the Torah is something that we do on a journey. So if someone destroyed the Torah, it would halt our journey and stop us. And I always thought that was so cool, right? To put up, lodge, the figurative expression originating in the circumstance that to put up for the night, the straps and packs of the beast of burden are unbound and taken off, or more correctly, from the fact that the traveler's garments tied up when he is on the journey are unloosed at its end. Interesting, huh? So he didn't come to do any of that.
Annul. He didn't come to annul
That's right.
or divorce
Or make
the
it
law.
vain. And so the next word then is going to be law. What is law in the Greek concordance? It's G3551. And it traces us back to the Hebrew H8451. You cannot have one without the other because there is one law. And it does say in the meaning, it says Torah, law, instruction, or teaching. It shows the original word. It is a noun describing a thing. The transliteration would have been Torah, right? You pronounce it as Torah. Phonetic spelling is Torah. And the definition is a law, an instruction, or a teaching, right? And its meanings can mean a precept or a statute. And then if you go to the Blue Letter Bible and you look it up in there, it gives a little more expounding on it. So this right here is taken from the entire context of the Bible of what it means in different portions. Okay? In other words, it's taken from beginning to the end of the Bible and kind of writing out in summary what the law means from beginning to end. I thought that was pretty cool. And so it's talking of a law or rule producing a state approved of Yahuwah. Now, I wrote Yahuwah in there. It said G-A-W-D, but it's supposed to be Yahuwah, right? By the observant of which is approved of Yahuwah. A precept or injunction, the rule of action prescribed by reason of the Mosaic law and referring to the context, either the volume of the law or its contents. I thought this one was interesting. It said the Christian religion, the law demanding faith, the moral instruction given by Christ, especially the precept concerning love. And this is where I went, huh? Where did the Christians teach the Torah? They don't.
They don't.
They're far from it. And so this made me go,
Way
huh?
far from it.
The law demanding faith. Well, wait a minute. This just said it was the law or rule producing a state approved of Yahuwah. And then how could they say the Christian religion, the law demanding faith, when they're actually absent of the law? And that's why we have to be careful of taking other people's words for what something means. All right?
Well, It does make sense.
That's the
So
reason.
the Christian religion demands easy believism. It demands faith without works, the dead faith, the dead works, the wearing the T-shirt, the 2.5 billion.
So I guess if you were to insert the Christian law to many things, but not in the context of what G3551 means. G3551 means the law of Moshe, which they say they don't follow. So that's why I thought it was confusing.
And I think they did that on purpose to make you stop and think. Instead of just taking it at face value, they put something in there like that to make you stop and think: is this right, or is this the way it's supposed to be?
Maybe.
It could be looked at either way.
Yeah. Then it says the name of the more important part. Did you hear that? This cracked me up, actually. The name of the more important part, the Pentateuch, which is put for the entire collection of the sacred books of the Old Testament. The name of the more important part. I don't know who writes these things, but they crack me up, man. I'd love to sit and talk with the author because it's like, you just said it's the more important part, bro. And I agree, it is the more important part. But I don't know, I thought it was cute.
So they call
Very
it the
cute.
Pentateuch instead of Torah.
So Pentateuch is the Greek word for Torah or law. It's the collection of the first 5 books. It has something to do with the number 5. Pente is 5, right? Pretty sure Pente is 5 in Greek. Yeah, Pente is 5. So it's the 5 books of the Bible. Or
You
as
must
they
break down
say,
what the middle of
the more important part. I love it. I love it. So anyways, what's Hotel 8451 in the Hebrew? It just means the Torah, okay? Which is the first 5 books of the Bible. So what's fulfilled then? Because remember, he said in here, he said, I didn't come to destroy, but to fulfill. All right, now, a lot of religions teach that fulfill means end. So let's see, let's look into it a little more. Pleroo is the first Greek word that comes up. And it says to fill, to make full, to complete, or to fulfill. I love when they use the same word in the explanation here, just kind of go in circles, right? But it is a verb, and I think that's one of the most important things to show here, is because some people want to say that it means end, right, or to destroy. In other words, because destruction and end are the same thing, right? If I end something, I've destroyed it. If I've ended your life, I destroyed your life. If I end the remembrance of your name, I've destroyed your name, right? It's gone. It's over. It's done, right? Finished, as some say.
Yeah.
And
There's no more coming in after you.
you can't make full something you have ended, can you?
No.
I don't think so. So pleroo, it means fulfill, fulfill, or completed. All right, so let's look deeper, because Gulf 4137 then goes on to say, it comes from the word pleres, to make replete, literally to cram a net, level up or hollow, or figuratively to furnish or imbue, diffuse, or influence, satisfy, execute an office, finish a period or task, verify, or coincide with a prediction, accomplish, after, be complete, end, expire, fill up, fulfill, be make, fully preach, perfect, and supply. So when we read this word in the Greek, pleroo and pleres, in the context, if we read it as this meaning end, we would literally mean I didn't come to destroy it, but I came to end it. That would be very confusing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't come to destroy it or cause it to come to naught, but I did come to end it. And that's that would not make sense. As we are going to find out, he went on to teach the Torah. So why would he want to destroy or end something that he said he was not going to destroy until heaven went away and the earth went away? And it made me so like, man, it's no wonder that that people that dwell in religion are so confused. What's up, brother?
So to be called a rabbi, you have to be able to fully preach, to perfect and expound upon
Bingo.
the law. And so, what did they call Yahusha?
The great rabbi.
Great rabbi.
They called him
So he
great
came
rabbi.
to fully preach, to perfect, to fulfill,
To supply.
not to end. I know it says end and expire right there. I know.
That's
It would be
good.
weird if it said I did not come to end, but I came to end. So it means I came to fully preach and perfect and open it up and expound it.
That's right. That's right. Right? You have to apply some wisdom here because, and think of it in context and how confusing it would be if it just meant to end something he said it wouldn't end. And then some word studies, it goes back to 4137 playru. From playris, it means to be full, properly filled to individual capacity, to the extent it is meet or appropriate. So he came to pour into our life to fill us up with the Torah, to make sure we were complete in the Torah. He came to fully teach and to fill up those willing to hear it, right? Abounding in, completely occupied with. That's where the Greek word that's tied to the others, playres, means. To be completely occupied with. That's all he spoke. He went around teaching people about this Father's kingdom. Fulfill again in the Blue Letter Bible, G4137, means to make full, to fill up, to fill to the full, to cause to abound, to furnish or supply liberally. I abound. I am liberally supplied. That's what the Messiah came to do with the Torah. He wanted to make sure everyone who hearkened unto his voice was liberally supplied with the truth of his Father.
How many truths are there?
One truth.
Just one.
So here again is more of the Blue Letter Bible where it says to render full, to complete, to fill to the top, so that nothing shall be wanting to full measure. Full to the brim. Now, this is the meanings taken from the entire Bible. Remember I said with the other one that the Blue Letter Bible will take one word and it will gather, like AI does, it will gather how it was used in the entire context of the Bible, and then it will spread it out. And that's what this is. And if you were to go on the website, it'll show you all the times that that word was used in the entire book. And you will see that those who teach that it means to end or to destroy or to whatever they say, nail to the cross, what all the garbage they say, it doesn't mean that. That's all man-made doctrine. But it needs to consummate a number, to make complete in every particular, to render perfect, to carry through to the end, to accomplish, carry out, to carry into effect, bring to realization, to realize of matters of duty, to perform, to execute, of sayings, promises, prophecies, to bring to pass, ratify, and accomplish, to fulfill, to cause God's will, as made known in the law, to be obeyed as it should be, and God's promises given through the prophets to receive fulfillment. And when I read that, I jumped up out of my chair and I was like, what? Because it can't get any clearer than that, friends. So the teachings of our high priest, as we have said, Matthew 5:20, it says, for I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. So I broke this down word by word again for you. And there you see it says, I say. And that's G 3004. I say to speak is to affirm, to maintain, to teach, to exhort, advise, to command, direct, to point out with words, intend, mean to say, to call by name, to call, name, to speak out, speak of, and mention. So you put that with fulfill, and what did he come to do? He came to fully teach the words of his Father. All right? And if you go back, we'll see righteousness. So what's it mean, your righteousness? Well, your means yours. I've heard people say, well, my righteousness is filthy rags. Like, yeah, if you're doing what you think's best, if you're doing what the world tells you to do, yeah, if you're doing what doctrines of man say. But there's a problem here because the Messiah said, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Pharisees. Can someone read this one for me?
In a broad sense, state of him who is as he ought to be, righteousness, the condition acceptable to God. The doctrine concerning the way in which man may attain a state approved of Elohim, integrity, virtue, purity of life, righteousness, correctness of thinking, feeling, and acting, in a narrower sense, justice or the virtue which gives each its due, equity of character or act, especially justification, righteousness.
So what is our righteousness?
Justified. Accepted.
It's a doctrine concerning the way in which men attain a state of approval by Yahuwah.
That's the key.
Bingo.
Condition acceptable
Yeah.
to Yahuwah.
To Yahuwah, not to each other, not to any religion, not to man, but what does he say is acceptable to him?
And when we do those things, he calls us righteous.
That's it.
It's all in the Torah.
It's all in the Torah. What was the number one fault of the Pharisees and Sadducees of the day of the Messiah? They were what?
Self-righteous.
Self-righteous. They were hypocrites. They taught the words of Moshe, but they didn't do them.
Pharisees, they taught. The Sadducees, they wrote down things that shouldn't have been wrote down.
Still.
Correct?
They're
And they
still
still are. They're still teaching the doctrines of man over the word of Yahuwah.
and they're still writing.
Is that right with the Sadducees, right? They don't voice it, they write it down.
Well, the Sadducees was a different way of thinking than the Pharisees. So the Pharisees believed in the resurrection of the dead. The Sadducees did not. It was a different theology. Though they agreed that the Hebrew El of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was the true El, they had different ways of believing the rest. They were known as denominations,
Yeah.
or what's
We
called
know
a
what
sect.
happens. We know what happens to the denominations. They don't get it right.
The Pharisees actually had a really good way of thinking. They just refused to see the Messiah. Yeah.
You go into a Jewish temple that are Orthodox, they are some of the most snobbish, unfriendly, self-righteous. It's horrible.
Would you say, Mary, that they have a form of, I guess, if there's another word for godliness, but they deny the power?
Yes,
Yeah,
Holiness.
holiness would be a better word.
because you are not a part of who they are, and they feel they are the only way.
But there's no power.
In other words, they feel superior over you.
Oh, you bet.
without Yahuwah in there,
Right.
without the Ruach HaKodesh.
Right. Without the
So there's
real
no
happiness,
move
they think
of the
they are
Ruach
more
in those
superior than you because they know the Torah. Actually, they don't really know the Torah. They just think they do. Because if they really knew the Torah, then they wouldn't have their attitudes like that.
Well, I will say this though, I think there are more and more, especially maybe of the younger of the Orthodox that are saying the Shiach come soon. They're still not saying that they believe that he did come, but they're saying that they do think he's coming soon. But it's just, I mean, I felt very, very uncomfortable around those people.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's what they do at the Wailing Wall.
Knowledge puffs up, you know.
They
Yeah.
roll up their little notes
Yeah.
and they stick them in a crack in the Wailing Wall and they go, "Come Messiah, come Messiah, come," because they don't think he came.
No, they don't believe that.
They're still waiting for him. They thought he'd have a white horse and swords and chop heads off.
Well, he may do that. When he
Well,
goes.
that's coming in time, but it'll be after their time.
Well, there was a group of the Pharisees that did believe, and there was a great bunch of Pharisees and scribes that believed into the Messiah, especially after he was risen from the dead. And you can see these testimonies in the book of Acts. And you can also see these testimonies in is it the Gospel of Nicodemus or something like that it's called. He talked, because Nicodemus was a Pharisee, and he actually confessed then that Yeshua was Hamashiach and that he was wrong, and a bunch of other ones did too. And so all of that, of course, is designed to be hidden so that no one else comes into the same knowledge. You know,
Which really is a shame.
it is a shame, but you can't hide the truth. It will always make its way out. And to those who diligently seek Yahuwah, they will find him.
Yes.
They will.
But those people have no love.
They lack love, right? They're puffed up on knowledge and hate their brother.
So it looks like this.
So they have nothing, in other words.
If you're sitting around a table, sorry to interrupt.
You're good.
If you're sitting around a table and you've got the Baptists, you've got the Pentecostals, you've got the Messianic Jews, you've got them. Some of them got big hearts and little heads. Some of them got big heads and little hearts. And then some of them.
Yeah, because there is an opposite side of that. There is a type of love that has love for everyone of this world, but no love for Yahuwah. And I've met some really awesome religious people that love each other so much, but they don't love Yahuwah. Because what is the love of Yahuwah but to do his will? And so, yeah, they got a great love for man, but no love for Yahuwah.
Never learning, never coming into the knowledge.
That's it. That's it. But just going from one doctrine to another. And that's what happens. You have to love Yahuwah first. It was a twofold commandment. The first and greatest, according to the Messiah, was to love Yahuwah with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Then love your neighbor as yourself. The first commandment was not love your neighbor as yourself, and then think about loving Yahuwah. No, you had to love Yahuwah first. Because if you're not loving Yahuwah first and putting his commandment, his Torah first in your life, you don't know how to truly love your neighbor. It looks like the world.
It's our first love.
Our first love is Yahuwah, not one another, not each other. It's important to understand the order of things. Matthew 5:21, we have heard that it was said by them of old time. So he's going to start teaching us about anger, right? Who doesn't need to learn about that? Because we all get angry.
We all do. Believe me, we all do.
Have you ever gotten angry?
Even though we came to him and he came to us first and we accepted him and doing his will, we still get angry. And sometimes we get to an anger that we shouldn't be getting to.
Right on. So you heard it said, someone read that for me. I don't want to read everything.
Which one?
The first one.
Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, you shall not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you that whosoever in anger with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of counsel, but whosoever shall say, you fool, shall be in danger of the great fire of great Hinnom.
Now, does that sound like he did away with the law or made it more difficult? He made it more difficult. He fully taught it. He made this law come to fulfillment. Whereas anger isn't just something on the outside, but it's something on the inside that grows into murder, right? Even so much as cursing one another is a form of sin in anger. And it puts you in the danger of the fire of hell, y'all. The unclean place that was not designed for us. That's some scary stuff when you think about it. Just being angry in your heart at someone can put you at risk of losing the kingdom. So forgive quickly, and move on, right?
And if needed, as often as possible.
Yep. 7. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and there remember that your brother has aught against you, what's it say after that, Brady?
Leave there your gift before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift. Agree with your adversary quickly while you are in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver you to the judge, and the judge deliver you to the officer, and you be cast into prison. And then I say unto you, you shall by no means come out thence till you have paid the uttermost farthing.
Yikes. That's some spiritual stuff he's talking about there. Who is the adversary that accuses us?
Accuser of the brethren.
Hasatan. This is some deep stuff here, guys. Hasatan is looking for who he may devour. And how does he devour us? If we cross over from doing the uprightness of Yahuwah to giving into our flesh. The minute you start giving into your flesh and sinning against Yahuwah, the accuser is right there ready to eat you up. And so he hands you over to the council. If you ever want a deep dive, look into the council of the Shemayim. There is a council that governs over the judgment of those on earth. If you look into it, it might freak you out a bit. Yeah. But if the adversary goes up to the Shemayim and is like, hey, look at your servant Ralph over here doing this. And the council is like, oof. They have no choice but to put you into a prison. That prison might look like depression, anxiety, fear, sickness, disease, destruction. You're losing your jobs, losing careers, losing your dog. I don't know. But it's not good, is what I'm saying. And that judgment that comes over you holds you in that prison until you're completely humble. Been there, done that. I've been locked in that spiritual prison, and it hurts. But you know what? When you come out, you're ready to get yourself straight. And Yahuwah will deliver us from those prisons. The minute that we confess our sins and turn back to him, he is faithful to forgive and raise us back up. Okay? And so this is a deep meaning. I don't want anyone to get stuck in that kind of prison by the accuser. It's also referred to as a sifting of Hasatan, of a testing, a great tribulation. These things Yahushua taught us extensively. The next thing our priest told us about was lust. Can someone read that for me?
Ye have heard that it was said by them of old, you shall not break wedlock. But I say unto you, that whosoever looks on a woman to lust after her has broken wedlock with her already in his heart. And if your right eye offend you, pluck it out and cast it from you. For it is profitable for you that one of your members should perish, and not that your whole body should be cast into Gehenna. And if your right hand offend you, cut it off and cast it from you. For it is profitable for you that one of your members should perish, and that not your whole body should be cast into Gehenna.
So this is the reality of the lust of the eyes and the lust of the flesh and the pride of life. They drag us into hell. It's absolutely necessary to take a strong approach against lust. So does it sound like our high priest here, did he loosen the commandment, or did he cause it to become greater?
He took it from outside and put it inside the heart.
He magnified the Torah, which is what a prophet Isaiah said he would do. He fully taught the Torah. He went from it being a fleshly thing to a heart thing, right? And so therefore he made the Torah even more strict. And it's something to think about. On the ground of adultery, a man and a woman could get divorced. Well, if you think about it, if a man or a woman watches pornography and thinks in their heart to claim that person as their own, they've essentially broken their marriage covenant. And that makes me go, oof. In the eyes of the Mashiach, it's wrong. That's what he taught us. And so consider that deeply in your heart and in your spirit, to fight against those types of sins that drag us so deep down into the pit.
It's called animal lust.
I'm sorry?
Animal lust.
And
That's what
Like
it
the
is.
bestiality thing, or like
It's animal lust. It's the lust
carnal
in you.
mind. Yeah.
Carnal mind.
There we
It's
go.
the animal lust of the carnal mind that causes the problem.
You're right, David. I got you, bro. That beast mode that the world talks about.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if a person is in a covenant, marriage covenant, if one of those people does adultery, that does any of that, then the marriage covenant is broken. But how do you get it back together again? Let's say that person that did that asks forgiveness of Yahuwah and says, I'm sorry I did that.
And of
What
your
happens
partner.
then?
And of your partner too.
So the interesting thing here is,
So-
if we go back to the Torah, once the woman defiles herself with another man, she is defiled. And she is not to be accepted back into the home lest she defile the entire land. And she has essentially become that other man's husband. And she can never return to her other.
Her original.
Right. And so that is the Torah law.
Right.
Now, for a man, on the other hand, if he were to break that covenant, he would be responsible for marrying the woman that he broke the covenant with. But if he didn't marry her, then he broke that marriage vow and those covenants. He adulterated himself with another woman. And the sin would be on his head. In other words, he would be bringing himself to destruction. And it's a very interesting thing. I don't even know if I answered your question or not, but according to the Torah, once someone is defiled by another, especially the woman, he's never supposed to take her back. And we see that in Abraham. In Abraham, Jacob, when Jacob's oldest son, what was his name? Jacob's oldest son, firstborn. Huh? Reuben. When Jacob's oldest son, Reuben, he got really upset that Bilhah took his mother's place and was in the tent with his father. When his father was gone, he went in and raped Bilhah. In other words, he uncovered his father's bed. Now, even though Jacob loved Bilhah, he sent her away because she was defiled by her son. Now, he also cursed his son. And the scepter of kingship at that point in time was passed from Reuben to Yehuda. And the priesthood was also taken away from Reuben and given to Levi because of his sin. And so that sin is devastating. And in a marriage, I mean, can it truly ever really be healed or mended? I don't know. Having experienced that in my own life, I would say no. That disruption in the covenant causes a rift for the remainder.
I guess what I'm asking though, if it's the male, and the male asks for forgiveness of his wife, of Yahuwah, is he supposed to remarry, or can he remarry, or is his marriage?
So technically, the marriage to the first wife was never dissolved. She became the wife that was loved less.
Okay.
That's technically, according to Torah, if a man takes another woman, the first wife is still his wife. She just becomes like the less loved wife, if that makes sense. And yeah, does that help? And then there is prostitution. Yahuwah never wanted us to join ourselves to prostitutes as men, never, right? The daughters of Yasharel were never to be given as prostitutes, ever. Prostitution is against Yahuwah. But there are many righteous men in the Bible that would give themselves to prostitutes. It was Yehuda. Yehuda gave himself to a prostitute and ended up being was it Tamar? Was that her name?
I think so.
Tamar. It ended up being his daughter-in-law that he failed to give his son to fulfill the kinsman redeemer, right? And that was Yahuwah taking something meant for evil and turning it to good, as prostitution is evil. And sleeping with your daughter-in-law is evil. It's against the Torah. But because of the sins of that man, Yahuwah blessed the woman, Tamar. And it's from Tamar's lineage that came the Messiah. And so it's beautiful there. That's Yahuwah always looking out for the unloved spouse. But I don't know, does that answer your question at all?
Yeah, it did, and I can understand the thing of the prostitution thing,
Yeah.
because you become one body
Right.
through that act
Correct.
with the harlot.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, so the wife doesn't pass on, and in reality, when a man has a wife and then he divorces her and then he gets another wife, that first wife technically remains his wife for the rest of his life. And I've seen many men that have been divorced for a long time, and that first wife still has a great influence on his life. That first wife still troubles him more often than not. She's still a thorn in his side. And I've never really seen a circumstance where that first wife disappears. Never seen it, really. In many different testimonies that I've spoken to people, they always come back and say, yeah, my ex-wife this, my ex-wife that. It's still there. Whether it's good or bad, there's still some of influence. She never goes away. Why do you think that is? Because according to the Torah, that marriage covenant was forever. It was forever. Just because he broke it off.
But if that person dies, it wouldn't be.
The male. If the husband dies, the woman is released.
But not vice versa.
Not technically, no.
That doesn't seem fair.
I think it's the way that Yahuwah covers women. To be honest with you, women have a different covering from Yahuwah than man does. Man, the head of man is directly on Yahuwah. So like all the condemnation and the judgment comes down upon man. Mankind is the one that receives the severe wrath of Yahuwah. Whereas the woman, it's always looked out for them and guarded them. It's different. It's way different. Even though it may seem like it's unfair or they don't get this or they don't get that, he rewards these women so much. All the women in the Bible, you see that he looked out for them by name, and he would send them prophets just to bless them. Yeah, it's different. I can't explain the ways of Yahuwah besides that. All I know is what he says, and I don't know everything he says. I'm learning too, so maybe I'll come upon a greater thing.
Eventually, he will send his spirit upon you to reveal what you need to know when that time comes. But until then, this is what
I know on Wednesday when we went through that 1 Corinthians 7 there was more about the man, this and that and this and that, and less about the woman. The woman was kind of bound. She was bound until the husband, dies.
But think about in the beginning, when Adam was made, woman was taken out of him, so she's part of him forever.
Forever.
Right?
Yeah. You're right. And I think when someone enters into that marriage covenant, now there's two different types of marriage covenants, though. There's the marriage covenant of Yahuwah, and then there's the marriage covenant of strange women. In other words, it's a marriage covenant outside the will of Yahuwah that's just for the point of what's that word? Intercourse, if you will. I can't think of the actual lust, right? It's not actually a covenant.
Well, it's a contract.
It's just a flesh. It's a fleshly.
It's a lust contract.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And Yahuwah talks about it extensively throughout the scripture. For example, he caused his prophet Hosea to marry a prostitute, and to show that love, but yet the constant breaking of covenants.
That's what a marriage contract is. I mean, in the world.
In the world, it's strictly lust. In the world, it's all about lust.
Yeah.
But to Yahuwah, it's all about him.
There's a man that says, by the power vested in me by the state of Mississippi,
Yeah,
I now pronounce you.
I prefer the state of Alabama.
Alabama.
But that's
Gives
the
his
difference in a
gives
covenant
his
and a
contract
contract.
of lust.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
contract of
fine.
lust. That's what it is. What it is. And believe it or not, if you research in Scripture, you'll find that contracts of lust do not uphold in the Torah. So us being formally married outside of the covenant of Yahuwah, when we come into the covenant of Yahuwah, and if that one spouse doesn't want to, they're free to go. If they'll stay with you and learn the ways of Yahuwah, good. Let them stay and learn the ways of Yahuwah. But if they refuse and want to leave, you let them go, because that covenant was made outside of the Torah anyways. It wasn't even an actual covenant with Yahuwah. It was a covenant with an earthly priest in the wall of the land, not with Yahuwah. It's not one bound in spirit and soul. It's one bound strictly in the desires of your flesh. That's why oftentimes marriage ends on divorce anyways, is because it was always about the flesh to begin with.
It was all about me, and never about you.
Foundation.
Yeah, the foundation should be Yahuwah and his Torah, and not the world. Does that help? So not all marriages are even of Yahuwah.
They're just a man-made contract.
They're just man-made,
That's all they are.
Yeah. Because I had a man come to me for counsel one time. He was a Christian. And he's like, this woman's doing this and that and this. And I said, well, why did you get married? He was like, I thought she was hot, and she made me do the jig and stuff like that. And I was like, so what you're telling me is you're not actually in covenant with her. You've made an agreement that you'll share your bed with her. She's essentially your live-in prostitute. But now your live-in prostitute has moved out and is prostituting herself elsewhere. So what does that tell you, bro?
It never was real to begin
It
with.
never was real to begin with. And he looked at me, he was like, and I said, check this out. And I showed him the Torah, all these different things. And I showed him in Ezra when they put away their heathen wives because they were non-covenant contracts of marriage. They were outside of the covenant of Yahuwah. All right? I showed him all that. He was just like, whoa. And I was like, there you go, man.
So
Yeah.
how should we get into a marriage covenant?
The marriage covenant is between you, your spouse, and Yahuwah. You would say an oath to her from your heart in the fear of Yahuwah, knowing that it is Yahuwah that upholds your oath. And that should cause a great fear and trembling in your heart for your entire life. Because it is to Yahuwah that you're making the oath through your wife. Does that make sense? That's a big deal.
You don't go to a JP
No.
and say, I want to get married. That's it. You go before you do on the covenant.
And then you just live life like Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, or what?
I don't know what that means. I'm not
You
that
gotta
old.
get a piece of paper.
So this is like what Paul said. He was a Roman citizen. But did he go around telling people they should be Roman citizens? No. He used Rome to his advantage, but he didn't go around telling people you had to be a Roman citizen for salvation. And it's just the same. We're U.S. citizens. Do we go around saying that only U.S. citizens can be in covenant with Yahuwah? No. Is it beneficial to be a U.S. citizen? In most cases, yes, because we live here, right? So if you're a citizen,
Chris is like,
you get certain tax breaks and things like that when you're married,
break your neck.
right? If you're a non-U.S. citizen, you don't have to pay taxes. It doesn't make sense, does it?
It does not.
If you come from
Guys,
the
America
outside-
is so upside down.
Yeah, come,
It's so upside
you want to start a business?
down.
Go become a citizen in another country.
Yeah.
Come back. You
Yeah.
can open a gas station. They'll give you
Anyways.
$150,000. The Americans can't get $150,000. for a
I
gas
know.
station.
It's Americans that are taxed worse than the search order. Anyways, back to marriage. Most of us were married before the covenant. Now, you young people that are looking to someday get married, when you get married having knowledge of the Torah, your oath is to Yahuwah. Brady and Ralph and Matthew, your oath will be to Yahuwah.
Right. Yeah.
And so
You too, Brian.
remember that, and Christopher. So that should cause fear in our man to never break that covenant with that woman. And the same thing with the woman. The woman will say an oath back before the sight of Yahuwah. And that oath will bind her to her man through Yahuwah. My wife and I, we redid our vows. When we came to the knowledge of the Torah, we went and redid them to Yahuwah. And we basically just threw the man's garbage away. It's meaningless anyways. So that's what marriage truly means. It's between a man and a woman and Yahuwah. That's it. No priest-o.
It's good for taxes too, right?
It is good for taxes, unless you don't have a social security number to begin with,
Boom.
which is the ideal thing.
It has been said,
It has been said.
whosoever shall put away his woman, let him give her a writing of divorce.
Who said that?
Me. But I say unto you, no, I'm just kidding, that whosoever shall put away his woman, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to break wedlock, and whosoever shall marry her that is divorced breaks wedlock.
So again, this is saying that the woman broke wedlock with another man, and so the man is bound by the Torah to put her away, lest he would defile himself and all the things he has. Okay? And so this is Yusha teaching the Torah on divorcing a woman that has broken wedlock. The divorce decree, do you remember why Yahuwah told Moshe to give them the law of divorce? It's because of their what?
Rebellion.
Hard hearts. Because of their hard hearts. Because what was happening was the men of Yasharel were finding reasons to divorce their wife. They were lying. They were lying about their women just to get rid of them. And that's why, do you remember the test of the unfaithful woman? That they would make her drink a bitter drink to see if she was lying about being faithful or not.
What did that do? What do you mean?
So if a woman was accused by her husband of breaking wedlock, and she said, no, I did not do that, and there was no witnesses, they would bring them before the elders, and the elders would make her say an oath and then drink this tincture. And the tincture would go into her belly and her womb. And if she was lying and she broke wedlock, it would cause her abdomen to swell and her thigh to rot. And thigh is a clean word for something else. And I always thought that was very interesting because there is a lot of STDs nowadays through breaking of wedlock and other such things. It's rampant. And so that, but if she was innocent, it would do nothing to her. It would do nothing, and she would just be standing there like
that. That's the whole reason why.
I'm sorry.
This is supernatural kind of thing.
It was a legitimate tincture, but it was supernatural by the Ruach HaKodesh that would cause the woman to be guilty of her sin. It would manifest in the flesh, so that everyone would know that that woman was an adulteress. Yeah.
And that's the whole reason why you stay abstinent until you marry.
I mean, technically, if you're not abstinent to married, that means you married every man you ever had sex with, or you married every woman you ever had sex with. That's a lot of spouses, y'all. I don't think y'all can afford that. So please abstain from marriage or abstain from marriage before marriage, Brady. Check, Raj. All right.
I had
Yeah.
a friend for years, and she was older than I am.
Uh-huh.
And she'd been married one time to this man. It was the love of her life for many, many, many years. And she told me that he was unfaithful to every friend she ever had, he was unfaithful with, plus many others. She knew it, but she loved him and she stayed with him. He died a few years ago, and she just died last year. She was 88 or 89, and she died in extreme pain with vaginal cancer, and her female organs, they said, were filled with cancer. She had no idea that any of that. And, I couldn't help but wonder, was this through the sins of her husband?
brought those STDs
that
in.
he brought that to her as one body.
Probably, unfortunately, yes. It probably was for the sins of her husband that she received those things. But I don't know. Cannot say for sure one way or the other. Maybe there was something she was hiding in her own life. I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I can't speak for the dead.
No,
You know
can't, and
that
you can't speak for Yahuwah either. So that's just another mystery that we're going to have to formulate.
you've heard of homeopathy,
Yeah.
homeopathic medicine. Okay, I read an article that the background of that is that some of your ancestors had venereal diseases, terrible diseases that were brought on by sin, and that it is passed through the DNA bloodline and it manifests as other diseases as it's brought down, and that's what homeopathy is. And I talked to someone about it recently, and they said, you know, it could be true.
Wow.
I know that bitterness, unforgiveness, hard-heartedness, things like that, can cause tumors.
Yep.
Yes.
And can cause cancers. And can
Yes.
cause migraines.
Yes.
It can cause you name it. Just crazy stuff. It can manifest from the outside because of what they're holding on to in their heart, in their spirit, in their soul, how they think, how they walk, how they live.
I mean, if you hold on to something you know you're supposed to forgive or give up, and you don't do it, all you're doing is being unhappy. You're being unhappy, and because you're not, forgiving others of what they did to you, and you just hanging on to it, we were not supposed to do that. We weren't made to do that. We were made to give it to God so that He can forgive us, so that we can live a peaceful life. And if we're not being happy and living in a peaceful life, then we're stressed. And if we are stressed, then our bodies combat us, make us feel worse than what we actually are. I mean, that's what I get out of it.
Right on.
Because my brother, I love him, and he says he's forgiven me, but I know in my heart, I can see that he hasn't. And because he hasn't forgiven me, he lost his bladder to cancer. They took it out completely. And now he has an altered way of doing things. And he's been going through chemotherapy and all of this. And I know it's because if you don't forgive somebody that does something to you, if you don't forgive them, then that is possibly what's going to happen to you. So therefore, you have to give it, you have to forgive them so that Yahuwah will forgive you and all this doesn't come upon you.
Right. Good. You did. Yeah. Forgive people quickly. So oaths, he talked about oaths, all right, which is from the book of Leviticus. When you make an oath, right? And again, you have heard that it has been said by them of old time, you shall not forswear yourselves, but shall perform unto Yah your oaths, unto Yah. I think it's important that we don't forget that he taught, you shall perform your oaths to Yah, okay? Don't make oaths outside of things that you would keep. Because if we do it unto Yah, let everything be done as unto Yahuwah, right? So if we do that, are we in the first place going to be making a lot of oaths? No. We're going to be making oaths that we know we can keep, lest Yah become angry at us for making oaths and breaking them constantly. Does that make sense?
Right.
It puts a fear in our heart to even swear such a thing falsely. And that was the biggest thing that was going on in the religious circles, is these people were swearing falsely by the things of Yahuwah and then not doing them. And what does that do to the name of Yahuwah? Does it lift it up? No, it profanes it, right? And so, as the commandment says, do not take my name in vain. That would be going around saying, yeah, in Yahuwah's name, I'll do that for you. Then I'm not doing it. Make sense? Right? All right. So Yahusha taught it very simply. He just said, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. Whatsoever is more than these comes evil. Right? 538, he talks about retaliation. Someone read that one?
You've heard that it has been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue you at judgment and take away your coat, let him have your cloak also. And whosoever shall compel you to go a mile, go with him too. Give to him that asks of you, and from him that would borrow of you, turn not away.
I think the greatest realization here is when we realize that everything comes from Yahuwah. When someone asks us to borrow something, it's like, yeah, sure, here. This is from Yahuwah.
No, I'm really attached to that.
I'm really-
Easy up.
You know, what I got out of when they compare you to walk a mile, you go an extra mile. You know, that's just saying that during that time, your fellowship with Yahuwah may change their mind, and they'll want to worship Yahuwah.
There you go. What's turn the other cheek mean?
Get hit twice.
Why? Because you what?
Love getting hit
No.
2 times.
That you love Yahuwah, that you know
How-
they might feel
Mercy.
pity
Let me
against.
ask you, how could you get hit by the same person twice?
Open the door, let him do it again.
You opened the door and let him do it again. You forgave him. You forgave him the first time. So someone close enough to hit you, and you're like, they came to you and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that." You say, "No problem, man. I forgive you. Let's just keep walking." And then 2 days later, they come and hit you again. What do you say to them?
I forgive you.
I'm out of cheeks, bro. See ya.
That's it.
I'm out of cheeks. I'm just kidding. Yeah, you say, man, no problem. Here's 2 more. And
Yeah.
turn around, right?
I can take 4. That's it.
Yeah, 4 cheeks. That's it. Oh, that's hilarious. I'm glad I got you on a laugh. Teachings of our high priest Yahushua Mashiach told us to love our enemies. How did he do that? Can someone read this for me?
They have heard that it has been said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven, for he makes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust.
So that word neighbor there in the Greek is G4139. It just means someone close to you. That's it. Someone close to you, right? Someone that you know, someone that is able to hurt you, right? And then hate your enemy is someone that you love less. Your enemy isn't like, Russian prime minister, you know what I'm saying? Or the leader of North Korea. That's not what this is talking about. This is just talking about someone that's close to you that you love less than the one that's close to you and called your neighbor, right?
And it's usually those who are not in the word of Yahuwah, which you give them that love to try to help them see the love of Yahuwah and that they'll come to him. Right?
Right. And so in Leviticus 19:15 through 18, can someone read that? We're going to go over this next week, but
19, you said.
yeah, Leviticus 19:15 through 18.
Only be a few more business days.
So while you're looking it up, where do you think the people heard to hate their enemies and to love only those close to them? Where do you think they heard that doctrine?
That's just a selfish disposition. I don't know if you have to be taught that.
Right? That's good. It's probably going to the nature of the human being, right?
I mean,
That's man's world.
the Pharisees and Sadducees.
Yeah, we would learn it from
Pharisees and
man.
Sadducees, the ways of men, the doctrine of the Pharisees. Remember the parable of the Good Samaritan, right? The Samaritan was a neighbor, right?
Considered an enemy. Or somebody
They were loved less, but yet they were actually neighbors,
They were
you know?
a mixed breed.
Yeah.
They're different.
Yeah. And so I just wanted y'all to think about that because this is not in the Torah. To hate your enemies is not in the Torah. Go ahead.
Did the Sadducees have that?
Yeah.
Okay. 15 through 18 verse.
Yeah.
You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. You shall not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty. But in righteousness shall you judge your neighbor. You shall not go up and down as a talebearer among your people. Neither shall you stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahuwah. You shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall, however, rebuke your neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. You shall not avenge or bear any grudge against the children of your people. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And your
So Yahuwah taught how to love people around you from the Torah. You know, because if you're not discerning if you're not, what's that first line? It was respecting the person, right? If you're not looking at that person being like, oh, he's a Samaritan, screw him, right? I love him less. That's not what he taught. He taught don't even care if they're a Samaritan. If they need help, give them help, right? That's what he truly taught.
In other words, he's saying don't care about their nationality, care about the individual person themselves.
There you go. But it's more or less, it's caring about Yahuwah. And so we love Yahuwah every time we love someone else. That is, the Torah and the prophets hang on those two things. Loving Yahuwah and loving our neighbor as ourselves.
Yeah, he sees when we give a glass of water to somebody.
That's right. And it's not even about that person. It's about our love for Yahuwah to the point where we're willing to give up of what we have to help someone else. So more of loving our enemies. Someone keep reading.
For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than the others? Do not even the publicans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect.
I've heard this preached on sermons in church.
Yeah.
So they're talking about like the dirty guy that's got the all the piercings and holes in his body.
Yeah.
And he's tatted everywhere, and he's smelly, and he's got dirty clothes. He comes in and he's ratty, and he doesn't get any eye contact. He doesn't get a hello. He doesn't get a good spot to sit.
They shun him.
He feels well. They don't.
They shun him. That's what they're
Well,
doing. They're shunning him. They're not talking to him. They keep their distance. They're shunning him. They're not doing what is our Father would do, which would go up to him, tell him, thank him for showing up and helping him, asking him what he needs.
I don't think they even know that they're doing that, though, David. I don't even think that they realize that they're doing that, because I don't think that love is built into their heart.
No.
That's what I think.
Not
I
yet.
think that they don't understand
Right.
what they're doing
I agree.
or not doing, actually.
It's good. Was that all you had? Okay. Yeah.
I've always heard be careful how you treat people because you never know if that's an angel.
Entertaining the presence of angels.
An angel doesn't have to look like a bright thing with giant wings.
No.
Look like a homeless guy.
They
Well,
can appear as anything. Even an animal, they can appear as an animal to find out how much love you have for them. You see a crippled or an injured animal, and if you don't help him like you're supposed to, because God loved him and created him, so therefore we should try to help them as much as possible. If we don't do it, then that's really showing him how much love we have for our Father. Because next door neighbor, I was visiting, and there was this squirrel that had a down his right back leg. You could see it where the skin had torn, but it was white, and he couldn't hardly do anything. And my heart went out to him, and I prayed that his back leg would heal. And when I went back out a few hours later, I seen him out there running on the trees and going. So it was done. So I couldn't tell you if that was a true animal or if it might have been an angel. It's something you'll never know. Your thoughts?
Good deal. Yeah, good deal. What about that perfect as the Father is in heaven is perfect? Y'all have you thought about that?
We need to find our identity, not in this world or in ourselves, but in our Father, our Abba.
Do you
He's
remember?
perfect.
Yeah, do you
Have our identity in Him.
got it?
Yeah, that's what I see it.
Do you remember, Ryan? When did the Messiah say that we'll become perfect? You remember what he told that one guy that had too much money?
When we leave everything behind and follow
There it
the
is.
Messiah,
That's it.
follow you.
Because what did that guy say when we asked, how do I obtain life? And the Messiah was like, keep the commandments.
So I gotta do it all.
And the guy's like, well, which ones? You know, and
All
Messiah
of them.
started spitting them out. He's like, well, wait a minute, I've done all of them. He's like, what more should I do? And the Messiah was like, you want to be perfect? Go sell all you have and give it to the poor and follow me.
And the guy didn't do
Then
it.
we begin to walk in perfection. What's up, honey? Oh yeah, up there on that sign. On the my wife painted that for me. Can you all read it?
Yes, I was just reading it about 5 minutes ago.
Oh, I just now noticed it.
She was gonna paint on it. I was like, every time I look at that, I think of Peter and John and Andrew leaving their father in the boat, behind to follow the Messiah. In an instant, they didn't say, "Well, let us talk to Papa for about 5 more days, and then we'll come with you." They got out of the boat when they were
Instantly.
fixing their nets. They got out of the boat and said, "See you, Papa. We're going with this guy." That's how we need to be. That's how you become perfect in the eyes of Yahuwah. Just by following Him and being willing to give up everything of this earth to be His son or His daughter. That's perfection. That sounds pretty easy, doesn't it?
I want to tell you,
No, it doesn't. It
Sounds
very
well, actually, it sounds easy, but it's harder. It's harder to do.
Yeah, what's up, Mary?
our house burned probably 30 years ago,
Yeah.
35 years ago. My mother was still alive. And the night that our house burned in Bartlett, she had a stroke. And so she was kind of between life and death that night. And we lived in Calais, but our house, our big house, was in Bartlett. And it was a house about this size. And they called and said it had burned to the ground.
Yeah.
So the next morning, my husband and I went there, and there were still embers burning. And we kind of walked where we could, and there was a book in the middle of all of it. And there was one page that was flapping in the breeze.
Uh-huh.
And it said, "Thy God shall supply all that."
No, that's awesome.
And that was just, wow.
Heartwarming.
Enough said.
Enough said, huh?
Yeah.
I had a question about that last verse we just read. What if that man's sin was not? What if he was lying that he didn't keep all the commandments? What if he didn't? Because he said that he did with pride and arrogance. Right? It is prideful and arrogant to say, I already did.
Well, so you can do the commandments. It doesn't necessarily mean that you never screw up. It just means that your heart is focused on doing them.
And you can also do them without the baptism of the Ruach HaKodesh. You can just do them.
Right.
You can just be doing them.
Yeah.
This is what I do. This is how I do it. This is it.
Correct. And so, he wasn't lying. His heart was about keeping them in other words, is what he was saying. But he was forgetting one of the biggest ones, and that is to not be bound to this world, right? And that we can find that in the Torah, to not be so concerned with this world that we forget Yahuwah. When he has made us, when he has brought us into the land of plenty, to not forget him, right? That's what it talks about in Deuteronomy and stuff, that we're not supposed to forget him once he has made us rich. And that was this man's problem.
He loved his wealth.
He loved his wealth more than he actually
That was
loved.
his idol, Ralph.
Yeah.
He was not willing to, well, because I think he was just said, well, this one thing, didn't he? Didn't he like point out there is a thing, and that is one of the commandments. Don't have any idols above me.
So therefore,
Money
his,
was
his idol was his rich, what he had, Yahusha had blessed him with. And then he got so involved with it that he left Yahuwah out and started worshiping this Hasatan of wealth.
just enjoying his comfort
Right.
of the hard work that he did.
Right.
And that I'm sure is a hard thing for any person to do. If you do a lot of hard work and you generate some kind of a wealth or whatever, if your heart posture is wrong, you're going to hold that dear and you're not going to let go of it. And that guy's heart posture wasn't right.
It's
He
his
was
heart.
following, he was following the Torah
But-
because everybody went on Sabbath on
Right.
Saturday because he was pulled to the synagogues.
His
He
heart,
did everything from his
Right.
youth because that's the way he was raised.
but his heart hardened towards Yahuwah. And that's the reason why he didn't sell everything and follow him.
Well, let's just go back to what Yusha said, right? Yusha says you can't have two masters, right? Or else you'll end up loving the one and hating the other. You can't serve both money and Yahuwah. You can't do it. And that's what this man was doing. He was serving, even though he served outwardly by keeping the commandments, inwardly he had a different master, and it was Moni. It was God.
Only in the middle.
GAWD.
Mm.
He served the God of fortune, which is known as God, which is on your money, believe it or not.
Yep.
You can whip out your dollar bill and see what that man served back in the days of Yosha. He served God.
Ancient demons.
He corrects me every time I say that. So, yeah, it's on people's license plates, whatever. So did the Messiah say this last phrase, 548? Did he ever tell that to anyone in the Torah?
The Messiah ever said,
To be perfect even as the Father is perfect. Has that ever been said?
He
I think
says
so.
it all the time.
I
He
think so.
does. He says it all the time.
Where did he say it? Does anyone know?
I don't
Is it in
remember.
Genesis 17 maybe? Is it in Genesis 17? Huh?
Are you talking about because they were made in his image or?
No. No. I want to.
You don't mean 1:17, you mean chapter 17.
What I want to show you guys is he never changes. We're supposed to be children of who?
Yahuwah,
No.
Abraham.
Yeah, there you go, Abraham. I was going to try to think of another way to ask the question without giving it away.
I had to stop and think about it.
So Genesis 17:1. Does anyone want to read it? I want to show you something now. This is from the beginning. This is way back when me and Abraham were walking around. What's up? You got it, babe? Yeah, read it, please. Genesis 17:1.
And when Abram was 99 years old, Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect.
Walk before me and be perfect. At 99 years old, that just proves you're never too old to come to the knowledge of Yahushua. Okay? But what does that show us truly? It shows us that Yahuwah's standard has never changed. And what he has told his sheep has never changed. Did Abraham live a perfect life?
No,
No, he didn't.
nobody does.
Someone read Genesis 26:5.
What does El Shaddai mean?
Why are you asking me that every time? It's a
26.
representation in the Paleo Hebrew of the great udder, the great teat, that feeds his children the milk of salvation.
Yes.
But it is his goal to become their father so that they will eat the meat of life.
26:5, right?
26:5, what's it say?
Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and did guard my watch, my commandments, my statutes, and my Torah.
All right. So even though Abraham did not live a perfect life, his heart was stayed on Yahuwah by keeping his commandments, judgments, and his Torah.
He kept being righteous.
And so
turning
therefore
back.
he walked before Yahuwah perfectly. It is a walk. Salvation is a journey, my friends. Nobody's saved until the end. You work it out as you walk through this life in fear of Yahuwah, doing what he says over what man says, and therefore he counts you as perfect. I'll take that. But you got to follow him. If he says, take your only son up the top of the mountain and sacrifice him, you got to be willing to do it. In other words, forsake all. So Abraham was the rich man. He was very wealthy, right? But he only had one son. Yusha came along and said, hey, why don't you go sacrifice that guy? Abraham could have been like that rich man that we just read about, right? And been like, no, this is my only son. I ain't doing that. I've kept all your commandments, right?
Yeah.
No, but he didn't. He said, yes, I will. Let's go, right? That's what caused Abraham to be counted as righteous and to be perfect before you. And because of his willingness to listen to his voice, no matter what, Abraham was blessed above all.
And didn't sacrifice his son. It was
We
a
know the
ram
story,
there
Dave.
waiting for him.
We know the story, Dave. Giving to the needy. Hello, everybody. Who wants to read Giving to the Needy?
Take heed that ye do not your alms before men, to be seen of them. Otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when you do your alms, do not sound a shofar before you, as the hypocrites do in synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Amen. I say unto you, they have a top night their reward. But when you do alms, let not your left hand know on the top what your right hand does, that your alms may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret himself shall reward you openly.
Now, I never understood why the Christians would do so many public appearances of helping the poor, because literally it's written in plain English not to do that. I never understood that. And in fact, it says hypocrites do that.
Right.
Hypocrites do that.
Ever thought about it that way?
I mean, if you're going to
There's
store
so
your
much
treasures,
out in front to be seen of man.
Yes. Yes.
There's a lot of
I,
the whole time that they do.
my ministry this, my ministry that. Blah, 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 blah.
Put their name on
Yada,
things,
yada,
their
yada.
names all over stuff.
you know,
Wow.
you store your treasures in heaven by not letting them know what you're doing when you give your alms to the poor.
Yeah,
They
so-
ask who you are, just say, I'm just someone who loves our Father, our Yahuwah, and he has asked me to give this to you.
Yeah.
And go on about your
So
business.
sounding the shofar, just back in the temple, back in that day, they made these pots made of brass that when people would throw their coins into it, it would make a great sound. And the rich people loved it because when they would come into the synagogue, they would dump their little money bag into this brass pot and it would create a very loud noise so that everyone knew that, oh, look at this guy. He just dropped, 50,000 pesos up in the brass pot, So that's what this is referring to. Yusha was mocking them. I love that guy. Prayer. Who wants to read about prayer? What did our high priest teach us about prayer?
And when you pray, I can't read it.
And when you pray, you shall not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen by men. Amen, I say unto you, they have all taught their reward. But you, when you pray, enter into your closet, and when you have shut the door, pray to your Father which is in secret, and your Father which sees in secret shall reward you openly. But when you pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathens do, for they think they shall that they shall be heard for their much speaking.
I used to stand in church and listen to these dudes preach, or excuse me,
Pray.
praying, and be like, bro, are you trying to teach Yahuwah what the word says? Because like you're going on like you're in a sermon, man. I thought this was a prayer. Like, what are you doing here? We've literally recited 10 scriptures and 3 books of men, and yet you're still praying, dude. Like, get over it, man. Right? The hypocrites are the ones who pray in front of all men to gain for themselves in repetition. Anybody been somewhere in a religious organization, it seems like they just keep repeating themselves again and again and again.
And what does that repeating turn everybody's eyes to? To them.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at that person.
Yeah. What'd you say, Ralph?
They talk in circles.
Talk in circles.
Their sermons.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when it says closet,
Yeah.
that means prayer shawl.
Yeah. To be covered, right? To be in secret. Yeah. Yep. That's what it means. Because what good would it do to get out in the middle of public and put your prayer shawl on, bow in the middle of the street? You wouldn't do that, right?
No.
I like to think of Daniel. What did Daniel go to the lion's den for?
Solitude.
We're not like bound to Nebuchadnezzar or something like that. Not even the king's
He wouldn't stop praying.
Oh, okay.
He wouldn't stop praying. Where was Daniel when he was caught praying?
On a carpet, head facing east.
In his house. He was in a private place. Those men had to go find his closet and peek into his closet to bust him for praying. Be like Daniel.
Was he in the army by chance?
Daniel?
Yeah, where they flip your
Where
room.
you have no rights?
Yeah.
DOD.
Well, they were looking for a reason to accuse him to get him killed because they hated him.
Yeah.
And they knew that's one thing he wouldn't do.
And they knew that was the one thing he would not do is stop praying.
And
Bingo.
as you know, the Yahuwah said, you know, all those who
Yeah.
pray and come to me shall be shunned against the world shall shun them, and that's what happened.
Yeah, so don't be like the hypocrites, guys. Going out on the street corners to pray is not of Yahusha. Now you know. Now you know. All right, prayer. Someone read that one.
Be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knows what things ye have need of. When ye ask of him, after this manner therefore you pray.
So we're not the heathens. We don't have to beg Yahuwah to give it to us. We don't have to repeat ourselves again and again. When we ask a thing, he heard it because he already knew we needed it. So when we ask it, he's like, I already got you, son. I've already got you, daughter. You're good. Keep moving forward. Don't get stuck thinking you have to beg me for something. Hold on, David. All right? So please understand that Yahusha was calling anyone that did the opposite of that a hypocrite. And just let that sit in your heart. Because the words of Yahusha are truth. And if you will live by them, they bring life. What's up, David?
I have a question now.
All right.
Say you pray for something, okay? Doesn't make a difference as long as you're in line with him and you pray for something. Now, you know it's going to happen when you pray, you know, for whatever it is that he's going to deliver it to you. Now, my question is, you know this is going to happen, but if in the back of your mind it comes in there and say, you know, the worldly ways in your subconscious work is that they'll come, you know, he'll come in and say, well, this is going to happen. Does this mean that it's going to continue to happen, or you got to be praying again because of your worldly thought of it's not going to happen?
I think kind of
Do you understand what
I
I'm
think kind of
saying?
what you're talking about, though, is self-discipline. Folks, we have to be disciplined. You cannot be a disciple without discipline, because discipline is in the word disciple. So if you're going to be a disciple of Yahuwah, you have to be disciplined in Yahusha, which means a lot of times you're taking captive them thoughts that are causing you weakness, and you're saying, no, he's got me.
Yes.
No, he's got me. No. He's got me. It's also saying no to the flesh. It's also saying when those things try to come against you, you just say no. You fight against it. Your hand can't move unless you tell it to move. Your foot can't move unless you tell it to move. Your mouth can't eat unless you tell it to eat. It can't speak unless you tell it to speak. A lot of people put way too much power into these other forces, saying, well, it made me do this, and maybe. If you were to lay down and you tell your body, no, I will not rise, guess what? Your body is not going to rise. You're going to lay down. But there is something in you that will fight against you, though it has no power over you as long as you deny it, and that is your soul. It will constantly be like, no, you need it, I need it, right? But I want it. You just have to say no. Yes, it's a war. You say no. Praying to Yahuwah, saying, oh, take this from me. He's up there saying, no, you just deny yourself, bro. That's what he's saying. Those who deny themselves and take up their stake and follow me. He doesn't say those who I remove their stake from them. He doesn't say those who I just magically take away the human lust from. He says those who deny themselves. And so that's something to remember in your heart the next time you're faced with a temptation. It's not, oh, Yahuwah, take away my desires. No, it's, Yahuwah, give me enough strength for me to discipline myself. That's the reality of it. I love y'all.
That's what I was looking for.
Hallelujah. All right, let's say this together. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You need anything? You need something to drink?
No, I'm going to the bathroom
Okay. All right.
in a minute.
All right. So it said, let's pray this together. You ready?
Our Father,
Who established Yahushua in the
Exalted.
exalted
Lead us, Chris. Lead us, Chris.
exalted is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, as in the heavens.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our transgressions, as we forgive those who transgress against us. And lead us not into evil of inclination, but deliver us from the dark
darkness. For yours is the
kingdom, the power, and the glory forever.
All right. Now, that's a very clear-cut prayer. It's not a bunch of begging. It's not a bunch of vain repetitions. It's not weird, crazy things. It's very cut and straight, and it gives us all we need. What's up?
So what was David praying?
Huh?
What was David praying?
What do you mean, what was David praying?
David who? Because he was praying unceasingly, right? What
David?
was he
He
praying?
was praying this: lead us not into evil inclination, but deliver us from outer darkness.
Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
That's
I
what
will
he was
fear no
praying.
evil, for you're with me.
Over and over and over and over again.
He was constantly being oppressed by the wickedness and the evil around him. He was constantly praying to be delivered from his enemies. That's what that line means. How many times did David pray that he would become king now?
He didn't.
He didn't. Why?
He was humble. He was.
Because he already accepted the word of Yahuwah that he would be king. He didn't need to pray it over and over again. Are you guys getting that?
Mm-hmm.
He accepted the word of Yahuwah, so he didn't need to keep praying over and over again. Let me be king now. Let me be king now. Let me be king now. You said I'd be king. Let me be king. Let me be king. He didn't do that. What did he do? He said, oh, my Yahuwah, I am oppressed and encompassed by wicked men. Deliver me from these men. That's what this is saying. Lead us not into the evil inclination, but deliver us from outer darkness. Get us out of these wicked people, in other words. Does that make sense? Does that help? Anyone else have any input?
Yeah, I've been there. I keep on praying because I'm in situations.
Yeah. But the most important thing is to do like David did and accept the fact that he is going to redeem you.
Yes.
You will become as a king and priest to him. He will make you as a palm tree in his court. You will be a pillar in his kingdom. That's what he said. Accept it. And then know that he's got you. Right? Don't fear. What's up?
That was the way you put it with David, for Ralph, but for all of us, it was a good like a good insight on what it means to have like David's heart after Yahuwah, the man after Yahuwah's own heart, right? So that means if he says it, I believe it. I'm not going to question it. Like a good son or a daughter, if my dad said it, my mom said it, I'm not going to, well, why? Explain it. I'm not sure. How come not yet? How come not yet? When's it going to happen? Yeah.
It's my money and I want it
Yeah.
now.
So if he said it, I believe it.
I believe it. That's right. Does that help? Does that make sense, or is there more?
I mean, it does. I guess you're just begging constantly for
Yeah. Do you know Yahuwah knows that we're feeble human beings? He knows our frailty. That's why he has mercy on us. He knows that everything in this world is against us. That verse where it says, if Yahuwah is with us, who can be against us?
Mhm.
I always answer that with everything. Everything's against us. But nothing will conquer us. Nothing will prevail over us. Nothing can curse us. Nothing can destroy us as long as we remain in the unmerited favor of Yahuwah, his grace. Nothing is going to ever destroy you, bring you to under nothing, or to, as this says, outer darkness. Nothing can take you to outer darkness as long as you stay in his mercy. Make sense?
And repent and turn because he's merciful.
That's it. And that's what that means, to not leave his mercy. It's to not step outside of the King's Road. Right? This is a powerful prayer. If you were to commit yourself to just praying this every day, I know things will start changing in your life. I know they would, because these are the Messiah's words. Some more about prayer.
For if you forgive men their transgressions, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you forgive not men their transgressions, neither will your Father forgive your transgressions.
That's where all that disease from bitterness starts coming in, that unforgiveness. Yeah, that's a deep one we could probably talk about for an hour.
At least.
And then fasting. What's he say about fasting?
Don't make it look like you're fasting. And don't tell anybody about it.
Bingo.
It's not about anybody else. It's not about what they think of you. It's between you and me.
Again, secret is the key word there. Secret. It's between you and the Father. You summed it up perfectly. There's only one time we fast as an entire organization. Do you know what day that is?
Day of Atonement.
The Day of Atonement. That's it.
See, once if you walk around like you're fasting, it's like I'm doing this, it's while you are afflicting yourself, the way it seems to others is that I'm doing. When you do it in secret, that is just between you and Yahuwah, and it's more of like that heart position of you and him, and that willingness that that whatever he has led you in to fast from, however that's just between you and him. And if he brings forth your prayer when he answers it, again, that's just something that came from him.
Yeah.
And others have no idea. All they see is you working in your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They'll get to see him reward you openly.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
They don't need to see the time you spent in private dealing with something or getting over something or getting through something or getting his word about something. They don't need to see that part. That's not between them.
Otherwise, all you're doing is trying to seek approval of men. So our high priest also taught us about where to lay up our treasures. Would someone like to read it? Matthew?
Do not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust and corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust and corrupt, and where thieves despise me. Ye cannot serve me.
There's that scripture about serving Yahuwah and money, right? Provision, in other words.
Yeah, mammon is not just money; it's the comfort of having enough
Provision, yeah.
provision. Yeah,
It's good.
And normally, when you get enough, you think you have enough to make you feel comfortable. You end up wanting more.
Yeah.
You're not happy with what you got. You want more of it. And then you're not happy with that. So then you want more of it. And what do? You get out here and you deceive everybody else
It's good.
to get it.
well, last few weeks, contentment has been big.
Oh, yeah.
It's kept coming back to me over and over again. We got to be content,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
We got to be content.
Yep.
We got to be content if we have little, a lot, in the middle. If we're here, if we're there, if somebody's whacking us, or if we're happy, or if we're whole, or we're broken. We got to learn.
Yeah.
Like Paul said, didn't Paul say, "I learned how to be content in here and down there, with and without"?
That's it,
And
man.
see, the thing about it is, everybody who worships Yahuwah, their prosperity is different. So therefore, they should be content where they're at. Once they become content where they're at, then Yahushua will bless you even more than what you think is going to happen.
Yeah, be faithful in the little things,
Right.
and you'll be able to let more bigger things. But we need to be like a conduit, not a
Right.
not a pot that holds it. We need
Right.
to have holes in us to let it come out, and that's what the Book of Acts church was doing. Everybody that had need was getting from those that had enough or more, and everybody was getting taken care of.
Right.
And there was no lack. Nobody was lacking.
Free you receive, free you shall give.
It's not really ours anyway.
No, it isn't.
It's passing through our lives, but it's not ours.
Yeah, we're sojourners here, which means we're not storing up IRAs, we're not storing up 401ks, we're not storing up CDs. We're not doing all of that. We're not trying to create a retirement fund.
No.
Yahuwah is our retirement fund.
We're just stewards to disperse it.
Yeah, because what happens is when we begin to store up for ourselves, there our heart is also. You see that? That's a scary thing. If I say to myself, I'm going to store this money so that when I get old, I'll have enough. And the next thing I know, that is my hope. That is my treasure. That is my savior. And I stop being concerned with what Yahuwah has for me. It happens naturally over time, gradually. We start gravitating towards the idea that we can provide for ourselves, and we forget that Yahuwah will remember us in our old age. It's a beautiful scripture, by the way. That he will look after us even when our head turns gray. And so that's how we are supposed to choose to live our lives, like the birds, not giving thought for the morrow. Tomorrow, as it's
Takes care of itself.
Yes, it takes care of itself. So, do not be anxious. Speaking of the birds, here we go. You ready?
Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. Is not the life more than food, and the body than raiment? Behold the fowls of the air, for they salt not, neither do they reap, nor gather in barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are ye not much better than they? Which of you, by taking thought, can be add 1 cubit unto his stature?
Hallelujah. That is the essence of contentment. I want to live like that. Why? Because the Messiah said to. I want to live like, I'm not storing anything up. I just rely on you. Feed me. Feed me. Whether I have a little or a lot, I don't care. I just like to ask this one question. Give me enough that I never need to steal, but never give me too much that I would forget you more. And that is a great heart posture to have. I believe he'll do it because he says so. And to all your short people, don't worry. You can't add a cubit to your stature. But if you want to get those big shoes, we called them clod hoppers back in the day.
Platforms.
They were
Back when I was
adamant.
growing up, they
They
called
were adamant.
platforms, you know,
Maybe not
2
a
inches
cubit.
higher.
Anyways, another one of my jokes. Matthew 6:28. More about being anxious. Was I want to read it? I love. Hey, why don't you read it? Because this is about the lilies, and you're like a lily. Yeah, read it.
All of it.
Well, I mean, I would prefer all of it.
Why take ye thought for Brandon? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even
Solomon.
Solomon
It's Solomon.
is all his glory was not arrayed like these. Wherefore, if Elohim so clothe the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is to cast into the oven, shall he not more clothe you,
All right. Yeah. So what that means, Elena, is why spend time thinking of what you need to wear and what you're going to have provided? Think about how the lilies just grow by themselves out in the field. They don't lean over. They grow straight up. They don't spin around. They're happy and they're alive and they've got soil that Yahuwah gave them. And even Solomon, the wisest man, he had the best. He had the most. Kings and queens would come and check him out to see how amazingly blessed he was. He wasn't even as amazingly blessed as a lily in the field. So why should we, if Elohim clothes the grass of the field today and tomorrow it's cast in the oven, so why wouldn't he take more care of us than the little flower that we chop down and cook?
What's the most beautiful raiment that we could ever put on? What's the most beautiful clothes we could ever put on ourselves? Huh? The wedding garments of who? The ocean. That is the beautiful garments that he clothes us with. Who cares what we wear in this life? I've actually thought about just getting camel hair clothes with belt of leather, you know? I mean, who cares? In the reality of it, how ridiculous is it that we care so much about what we wear to gain the approval of men?
All those name tags.
Yeah. All right. So what are we supposed to do? Someone want to read it? Help me out here. We're almost done. But you guys got to read.
Brady does.
I'm not reading it.
I'm good.
Everything except for the.
Therefore, take no thought.
How many thoughts?
None.
Just one? Just one though.
All right, keep reading.
Saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or wherewithal shall we be clothed? After all these things do the other nations seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you have need of all these things. Seek first the kingdom of Elohim and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof.
Yeah, tell me about it. Sufficient for the day. I cling to these words in my life, and I strongly encourage you to also. Put Yahuwah to the test. Put him to the test, and let him take care of you, as he promises. Abraham did, and he was exalted above all men of the earth. And so I know he'll do the same for you as children of Abraham. Judging others. Here's a good one. Let's go. Someone read that for me.
Judge not that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. And why behold you the mote that is in your brother's eye, but consider not the beam that is in your own eye.
So I laid out the words in the Greek there. So to judge means to damn or to condemn. All right, because in context, it would not make sense for the Messiah to say, don't judge, when he actually says to judge. It would be contradicting. And the word of Yahushua does not contradict. So what it truly means is I don't look at someone and be like, you're going to hell.
Don't curse another person.
Right?
Now.
Right? I'm not condemning that person because it's ultimately the judge's role to condemn someone, and that is the Messiah. The Messiah is the ultimate judge. But judging is saying, brother, you're in sin. There is a way out. You see how I judged without condemnation? Brother, you're doing this, that leads to hell. But there's a way out if you confess and get out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a way out. So this is what he's saying here. Don't damn or you'll be damned, right? Don't condemn or you'll be damned, right? And then according to what, this is an important one here, it says, with what measure or instrument in the Greek, with what instrument you judge someone, you'll also be judged according to that measurement. So if I'm judging someone according to religious law or according to a man's law and not according to the law of Yahuwah, I'm going to also be bound to that same way. And let me tell you something, the law of man is corrupt and it will always come back to bite you. And so if you're going to go out there and start judging people according to what the Christian church says even, you're going to be way off. You're going to be way off. And to get judged like that would not be a good thing, right? I've had Christian people come up to me and give me an evil eye because I had tattoos.
It's like you just got him today.
Like I just got them right there.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I was an usher at the time. The lady gave me this evil look and she's like, I'm surprised they let you usher with them things. I did. I laughed actually. But that's the judgment of her, right? Now in Leviticus, it says not to cut the skin and to not mark your skin like the heathens do, right? In other words, don't get tattoos. But what she was doing was condemning me in that moment. She was trying to bring condemnation on me.
You're trying to damn you to hell. For
Right.
that.
She was trying to damn me or say I'm not good enough to be in the position I'm in because of this, right? And that's not good. That's
What
not
is-
good.
What is a person that does that? Is that someone who's not? Because we're instructed to look in the mirror of the Word and let the mirror judge us, right?
Right.
And see our faults
Right.
and deal with them. So what does that mean when someone is a constant condemner or a constant damner or a constant judger?
It means that they're condemned already by Yahushua. That's what this is saying. If you go around condemning people, you're already going to be condemned. Because you're too worried about the mote, the large error in someone else's eye instead of the error in your own eye that condemns you. So it means you're already condemned because you're too busy pointing the finger. Yahuwah says, if you will put away the pointing of the finger, he hates the pointing of the finger. Now that is not righteous judgment. That's not what he's against. He's for righteous judgment. This is a condemnation or a condemning people based on what you think's best according to your own measurement. All right? Like the Jews, for example, the Yahudim. Even modern day, you can't flip a light switch on the Sabbath. That's their law. And yet they, like the Messiah said, would loose their donkey to go get water. You see how they were condemning people, but yet they did something even greater as they were leading their donkey to water? You see that there's a great imbalance. They were measuring people to a stricter standard than they themselves kept. That's what this is trying to parallel. We don't do that.
There's some who they're so legalized that you can't kill a fly or a roach on the Sabbath. You can't kill anything. So therefore, which is wrong, because you didn't say you can't kill a fly on the Sabbath, right? Did he say that?
No.
Or a
Can't
roach,
step on
I mean,
those.
No, he said no servile work. Servile work means the work of a slave. It means no sowing, no reaping, no spending money. Don't go out here and be purchasing with the merchants on the Sabbath, because that's what the heathens do. They have no regard for the holy things of Yahuwah. That's what Yahushua was again. That's what it means.
When do you hear everybody mowing their grass?
It also says
Saturday.
It also says don't slaughter a calf.
Don't slaughter a cat.
Calf.
Oh, a calf.
Don't kill.
Well, yeah, because why is that? That's reaping.
Right.
That's reaping. It all goes into
So
reaping.
therefore,
That's what he's referring to.
Yes.
that's where it refers to, you're not supposed to.
The Jews probably took that as don't kill anything.
Don't kill anything, 'cause that's
Right.
what they do. Yeah.
But
Too
in
far.
reality, it means
Don't
don't
reap.
kill things so that you can eat them.
Right. Consume. Don't be consumers
Yeah.
on my Sabbath. Consume me, he says. Eat me on my Sabbath.
We're
Right.
supposed to eat the word today.
That's it. That's what we're doing.
Every
right?
day, but today especially.
Check this out. Who wants to read this one? This one's good. Judging between holy and profane.
Give not that which is holy unto the dogs. Neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you.
All right, so to be able to determine what is a dog and what is swine, you have to judge. So that's why I said, if you say in this scripture, if you say don't judge, then literally right here, you're contradicting what the Messiah is teaching, because you have to judge. Okay? So judging is healthy according to the Torah, but condemnation or judging with condemnation to your own standards is unhealthy and unlawful. This is deep. The dog. What is a dog?
According to G2965, it's a spiritual predator that feeds off of others, a person of impure mind.
Other dog.
Well, that's who their father is. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. You getting it? All right. And then what is a pearl?
It's a word of great value. That's like when Solomon said, choice words are like honeycomb.
Yeah. You got it.
But it does no good if you give it for swine.
Yeah,
I don't care, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So what is a swine?
Somebody who is an unclean person, and honestly, being in that state, they don't even know that that's who
No.
they are. And so when you give them a good choice word, they don't know what's going on with it. They don't even know the words.
Yeah.
So they're going to trample all over it, probably ignore what you said, forget it in 12 seconds,
Yeah.
and then start talking about the world again.
Yeah. And then slander you, right?
Message of the discussion I was having with my friend this week, he couldn't even see the words I was
Couldn't even see it, huh?
he did. Like he was reading it when he was talking about something different. He didn't even understand what I was saying.
Yeah, it's a shame.
When you have to pray, Yahuwah will give him clarity if it's his will.
Well, your eyes are closed until he opens them, and it takes dying to self. It takes repentance.
Yeah.
And being washed, and having the infilling of the Ruach HaKodesh,
Yeah.
right?
Well, who find him anyways? Who finds you?
The ones who seek them.
Those who seek him.
Diligently.
Yeah.
So
With
a lot
their
of
whole
times
heart.
what happens is people are happy in their religion.
Yep.
And so they never actually seek you. So their eyes will never be open. And nor will their ears. Their ears are stopped up too. That's why he can't hear you.
I'm good. I'll just keep my Jesus, man. I'm happy.
So the last couple slides here. Ask and it will be given. What's it say?
Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find it. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asks receives, and he that seeks finds. And to him that knocks it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you whom, if his son asks bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he asks a fish, will he give him a serpent? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him?
There you go. That just solved what we were talking about. The golden rule. Who's got it?
Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the Torah and the prophets. Enter ye in at the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because narrow is the gate, and troublesome is the way which leads to life, and few there be that find it.
Man, I've read this about 1,000,000 times. And every time I read it, I'm like, thank you, Yahweh, for helping me find the narrow path.
Even if it is troublesome, his yoke is light and his burden's easy.
Yeah, for real, y'all. Broad is the way, leads to destruction. You guys are familiar with this. Our high priest taught us how to find the way. He taught us how to find the way. Many people don't even see it, and they can't find it. Why do you think that is, sister?
Because they get so wrapped up in the way of the world that they don't focus on the way that they're on the path that they're supposed to be on.
Yeah.
So they just get consumed out here, and so many are out here, and very few are walking with this.
There you go. That's good. That's good.
In psychology, we call that group thinking.
We call it
Group
what?
thinking?
Group thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The herd
Everyone
mentality.
else around you thinks something, so then you begin to
Which
I have a
all of us
scenario.
have been guilty of that. That is very common. That's huge. It's in our
I
nature
work
as
for NASA.
humans.
Okay, and when we would sit around, we would do democracy, and we would go in. First, we would do the tests on our own, so we would do our own path, and then they put us in the majority, and they found out that what NASA does, that they wanted soul thinkers because they have their thought going straight, and then when you get watered down in the masses, that you lose your way. And so, and then they would test it over and over, and they found that's why the people that they test, they want true thinkers to go and be dominant in their way of thinking, and then they pull the whole party in, and they say democracy will fall because they're not thinking on their own to go the way they want.
That's cool. It's like that picture with the mass of people walking towards the cliff, and like each row's falling off the edge of the cliff, but the mass keeps pushing towards the edge.
It's almost like push and pull at the same
Yeah.
time, like a slinky.
Yeah,
It's just gonna keep on going.
yeah,
It won't stop.
that's good.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I got called to jury duty a few years ago. I can say it now. We convicted the guy of 37 years. I'm not gonna say why, but they put me being the guy standing up there saying the words, and the guy writing this thing getting the 12 or the 11 and the 1 to be 12 and nothing, right? So I'm like,
Wow.
it might have been for that because I was more lined up like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Come on in.
Hi,
How are you?
good.
Good. That's interesting to see you all.
I was just saying he was gonna have no reaction.
All right, yeah, you gotta
None.
get over this one.
Don't worry.
Okay.
He's like, glad you're here.
Great to see you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, long journey, eh? All right.
Wow. How you doing?
Here. Glad you're here. Why don't you grab a seat or a piece of pie or something?
Come here, Ellie.
Get some pie. Get some pie.
Thank you.
We're just finishing up our Bible study. If you want to join in.
Diane, how do you say NASA? Space Station or something like
Yeah,
that? You working with them now?
I don't work on that, but I worked in the sector like in the 80s.
So that's the right thing to do? Yeah, I want to talk to you in detail in the future.
Me too, because I almost wanted to do a work
I'm
amendment. Glad I did not, by the way.
It was a blessing because I'm not people that admired the intellect. So it is like being in a pool of was the most
Just a couple more slides. You just want to finish this up real quick. Sorry it's been so long. It's just that the teachings of the high priest have to be given all in one sitting. Because he did it. He literally sat on that mountain and taught everything that I'm going over with you today in one sitting. And what happens is when we divide these teachings, people lose the value because they forget what was said in Matthew 5 when they get to Matthew 7. And then they come up with all sorts of weird doctrines and vain ideas of what the Messiah truly said. And so that's why I'm presenting it to you in one sitting, as the Messiah did, our high priest. And so he goes on to say, to beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that brings not good fruit is hewn down or cut down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits ye shall know them. What are the fruits of the religions of this world?
Bro, you can preach on this one. I know you could preach on this one. It is, I'm just going to start it because I know you can finish this one better than I can.
Go for it.
It's the ones who are building their platforms. That's their fruit. It's the I and the me. It's the man-made mounds and buildings and the pillars and all the things that they are building up for themselves. That's their fruits. That's showing. That's the fruit of their labor.
What is a disciple of a false way called? Do you remember what Yeshua called them? Proselytes. He called them proselytes. He said, you travel the seas trying to make a proselyte like yourself, but in truth, he is twice the son of who?
Perdition.
The son of Gehenna as you. Yo, that's what the Messiah said about these false religions. He did not like them at all. Yeah. So fruits, if it's a good tree, it's of who? It's of the stem of Ishi, right? It's of the branch of Yehusha. If it's a bad fruit, it's of man-made tradition. It's of man-made law. It's of man-made religion. Now, this is one of the scariest sections in this teaching. It's not everyone that says unto me, Adonai, Adonai, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Adonai, Adonai, have we not prophesied in your name? Have we not cast out devils in your name? Done many wonderful works? Have we not had great Christmas celebrations? Did we not dress up like Abraham on Halloween? Didn't we join the fraternal order of the Jesuits in your name? I mean, add to it whatever you want, right? We did all these crazy things in this life for your glory. And what's he going to say to them? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. And that goes back to the Greek word, which is a condition without law. And we know what law means. We went over it earlier. And so I don't know how so many people miss this. But if you're without it, that means you ain't got it, which means he don't know you. Then 724, who wants to build their house on the rock? Someone read that.
Therefore,
Whosoever.
Here's these sayings of mine.
Yeah, take turns. This is cool. And does them.
I was liking him to a wise man,
Which built his house upon a rock.
and the rain descended,
And the floods came.
And the winds blew.
And beat upon the house.
and it fell not,
For it was founded upon a rock.
and everyone that hears these sayings of mine
And does them not.
shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the guys. You're not following.
Which
Upon
built
the
his
sand.
house upon the sand.
And the rain descended.
And the floods came.
And the wind blew,
And it beat upon the house.
fell,
And great was the fall of it.
does him.
Now, Matthew 7:24.
This is serious.
The phrase "does them" is G4160, which means to make, to do, to act, to cause, to work. So anyone that says that you can believe without works and be justified is an idiot. They're literally completely ignoring the word itself. They're completely negating all the teachings of the Messiah and laying aside the commandments of Yahuwah to uphold the commandments of men. All right?
In most part, they do that consciously, tell you that, you know.
Yeah. Do you see here this word poio? It means to construct. What did the master just say? What did our high priest say? He said, is like a man building his house. You see how it works together here? A man building his house. He's doing this, all right? I thought that was pretty cool. Does them not comes from the word puyo, to make, to do, to act, to cause, to work. And then me means not unless. Where's Ryan at? He would love this. Notice it says when we do me, we're not doing them. I just thought that was hilarious. Yeah, Ryan, look at this. So in Greek, me means not. So if you're not doing the commandments of Yahuwah, you're doing me. You see? I was trying to be funny there. I don't know if that's funny or not. You're either doing him or you're doing me, okay? And make sure you're doing Yahuwah, the words of Yahuwah, and not just what you think is best. Me, right? Last slide. Who wants it?
And it came to pass.
When Yahusha had ended these sayings,
The people were astonished
At his doctrine.
For he taught them
as one having authority.
and not as the scribes.
Hallelujah! Well, to all those who join us online, I thank you for being with us today, and I hope Yahushua just blesses you with His word. He cleanses you and brings you into the knowledge of His saving favor.
Praise you.